play some Blood and Fury, World at War 85 from Lock and Load, and I thought I'd start at the beginning. I'm looking at scenario number 1 here, which is, here's the scenarios. And scenario 1 is guns in a knife fight. Yes. So setting it up here, this has got a little bit of a different kind of setup. You're going to roll 1 die 6 or 1 6-sided die and place them in these locations. And that can mean that you could have enemy units right next to each other. So you could do the West German first, then the Soviet, then the West German, then the Soviet. This is all the order of battle that you need, what cards you put in for the formation cards and the units for the setup. And there's basically 4 groups that start off on the board, and then in later turns, the Soviets get some helicopters and then get a jet attack there. So, but those come in later turns. The way I put them here is I put them on the turn track when they come in, and then I'll put their cards in when it's time for them to come in. So let's see how they all shook out here on the board. I'll try to do this without knocking everything off the board. There you go. So it's interesting. I could, nobody started out next to each other, but it is kind of interesting. The victory conditions are the Soviets need to get full strength units off at this A location, and the West Germans need to get units off, full strength units off at this B location. And the winner is the one that has the most of those off at those 2 locations after 10 turns. Interesting thing is I could go ahead and just roll all these West Germans right off the board because there's nobody to stop them there. But what about what's going on down here? So that's the interesting thing about this scenario. Depending on how the setup goes, you could end up with a not very interesting playability. I mean, you could have some of the units real close to their victory hex, and what's the point of that? So at least there's going to be some combat here. I'm probably going to take the West Germans. I'm playing this two-handed. So son's off at college, girls are studying and at swimming and school and what have you. So I'm going to kick it out by myself. Plus, it's been a while since I played WaW85, so I got to dive into the rules again a little bit. So I'll probably take these forces right here, bring them down here to create a little bit of a buffer to let these guys get up this road to get to their area. The question is for the Russians, are they going to, or the Soviets, I should say, this is 85, right? So I should be saying Soviets. The Soviets, do they try to run up to their area and it's just a race to see who gets there first? Or do they try to create a little bit of a stop here of these forces? So that's where we're at. I'm probably not going to do a play-by-play because you don't want to see me looking up rules. Even though this game is not that complicated, I still probably have to look up a few things as time goes on. So I'll probably do some after turns. Don't know if I'll do it after every turn, but after a few turns and see what the situation looks like and talk a little bit about the game. Anyway, thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you on my next update. Alrighty, let's pick up the action. I'm in turn 3 here, and as you can see, the weather got changed to level 2, so there is mud on the ground, and the roads are the only way to go, or really the best way to go. They're not the only way to go. As you can see here, the Soviets, we're in 1985, got bogged down here. They got a really, really slow start and missed some activations. And so the Germans, the West Germans, were able to get over here and kind of cause a little bit of a bottleneck, kind of a shooting them in a line as they're trying to get to their objective hex here. There was a little bit of combat here. with the West Germans that started down here, and then also with the West Germans that came down this road. I decided not to exit, but to come and help out their brethren get on that road. Got a wreckage there. So Soviets are not doing very good. Have quite a bit of casualties here. Took out a couple of transports there, which also ended up taking out the on the rolls. Took out their passengers. So there you are, getting ready to finish up and getting ready to go into turn 4. It's not looking good for the Soviets, and I've got some comments about this scenario, but I'll save that for my end cap, which might be next, or I might do another quick review of gameplay. Well, I'm back, and this is going to be the finale. I decided to call it, well, actually, it's kind of over the minute you get all your units off either one of these objective areas. And since everybody's off as far as ground units, there really wasn't any point going more, and that was on turn 8. So the final tally, the Allies got everybody off and undisrupted. So pretty decisive victory, whereas the Soviets only got these off and everybody else was destroyed. So clear victory on that front. So what do I think about this scenario? Well, first of all, let me address this. I said I played this two-handed. There is solo rules in this game and cards for solo play that is their solo assist, and each scenario is unique in what cards you put in for the solo assist. I decided not to use the solo assist because I was just getting back into World of War 85, and I didn't want to take any more time to figure out that, oh, there's all my wreckage. Take a quick look at the wreckage there. Mainly, well, all of it is Soviet wreckage. So looking at the scenario book here, there are, let's go down a little bit more here. There are rules for each for solo play or for setup on what cards you put in for out of the solo assist deck. I just decided not to do that this game because I'm getting back into World War 85, hadn't played it in a while, and I wanted to kind of just get familiar with the rules. Having said that, what do I think of this scenario? Well, I kind of mentioned it in my last update. The setup is very situational. So the way that this setup ended up happening, it was very favorable for the Allies. They were already, one group was already ready to get off the board. The other one was on a road to get off. There was some combat down here, but once the tanks came down and kind of drove the Soviets out, and the fact that these Soviets got stalled here and couldn't get up the road, that these Soviets got stalled right here and couldn't get up the road, and there was some combat here. Tanks came down, drove them over, and then the Soviets got stalled. So there was a huge bottleneck and wreckage right here, which allowed this unit to escape and get to the objective, and then the tanks took their time and got off the board by turn 8. So the way this setup happened, it wasn't very climactic. It wasn't very exciting. But I mean, you can have setups. I mean, depending on the roles, you can actually have the combat forces start off right next to each other. So then it's a firefight from the minute you're starting the whole scenario. So that allows for this scenario to have a lot of replayability and make it interesting. My setup wasn't as interesting, so I suggested when you play this, if you're learning the rules or just getting acclimated to the rule set, then maybe the setup that I had would have been fine. If I were to play the scenario again and had that same setup, I might re-roll and try to get the units a little bit more engaged and not having the allies have kind of a clear advantage where they had all their stuff already on their side of the board. So that's my issue with the scenario. The random setup can be very interesting or it can be very boring in that regard. But it worked out good for me to get used to the rules and get acclimated. This is a good scenario in that it is get you used to the rules. You get to use helicopters. Although the helicopters, all I had left was armor on the board. And so the helicopters really weren't, the Soviet Hinds were not very effective. I was trying to get that, I was trying to get the Soviet plane on the board. Oh my God, look at that. There we go. The plane took me right off the board there. Trying to get this on the board here, and so that at least you could try to do something with the tanks. But alas, it really couldn't do much, and it just ran out of time. It gets you the rules, all the basic rules, of course. You know, direct fire, movement, terrain. Also, I had weather. The weather kept changing. It actually got to level 3, so it was foggy and muddy. So you get some of that effects. You get used to the random event table or the battlefield table or the battlefield friction table, depending on what you roll on the first table. And so all the basic rules, it gives you a good feel for it. And then you get to helicopters, planes, and also transports was interesting. I ended up loading up everybody of these forces down here, and then got them off the board over right there. Did the same with the Soviets over here as well. So in that regards, the scenario is interesting. If you get the right setup, it could be a very interesting scenario. If you don't get the right setup, then it's I might suggest re-rolling. Game wise, the rules are not that complicated, but the way it's been a while since I played it, so I was kind of hunting and pecking quite a bit. I suggest the charts I used the most were this sequence of play chart right here, because it was kind of showed me what the different phases are and gave me the rule reference so I can get right to it. So this sequence of play chart worked out relatively well, and use that. Use this chart, the battlefield events, and then the effects. Of course, when you draw that or friction, if you roll a 7, you get to go to the friction and see what that is. But I had to use this because you had that card in the formation deck. Use this a little bit, the move and fire summary card. Use that a little bit. Use the terrain effects. Use that quite a bit. At the very beginning, was using this player aid just to get familiar with what were all the designations again on the counter. So that used a little bit, and then this is again the remaining terrain effects chart. So yeah, use that. So. And then the weather change table, use that a couple of times. So these are really all the charts that I used in the game right here. So, not that many. And of course, looked in the rules as well. So anyway, there you have it. Guns in a knife fight. Allies clearly won by a massive total compared to the Soviets, but again, a lot of that was the setup, and I had some good rolls with the Allies early on, some bad saves, but then there was one tank unit that held out to the very, very end, and for the Soviets that man, it kept saving, and it just couldn't get a fire back. The thing about the German armor is got it's kind of a glass cannon because it's got decent firepower, but really low save power. So if you can get some shots on it, you can probably take them out. But the Soviets really never got a chance for that. Anyway, that's what I have for you today. Thought I'd just share that a little bit with you. Thanks for stopping by, and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.